Update. What do I do about our aunt, 58F, freaking out because I, 26F, didn't wear makeup? Original post. Hi all. There have been some unexpected developments in this situation that I wanted to share.
Despite that most of you suggested that I just ignore her, I felt a sense of obligation, and was under a lot of familial pressure, to try to get her one-on-one and attempt to communicate. Yesterday I brought her a fresh-baked loaf of bread as a gesture of goodwill and called and told my uncle to warn her that I was coming over to talk.
He had been off visiting his own parents over Memorial Day weekend, so he'd only heard about her freakout.
It did not go well.
I tried to gently explain to her that when I said special occasion I meant formal occasion and that I always think it's special to see her and the rest of the family. She completely rejected my explanation and said I can't tell someone they're not special and just turn around and say never mind, and said some nasty things about my appearance since I again was not wearing makeup. She finished out by taking the loaf I made for her and making sure I watched as she threw it in the garbage. At this point I said, I tried, I'm done, I can't help you, and left. My uncle stopped me as I was leaving the house looking really upset. I assumed he was just embarrassed over my aunt's outburst, but he asked me to take a walk with him so he could talk. We walked around the neighborhood and he apologized for how my aunt has been acting but started to cry. When he was able to talk again, he admitted that the reason they had come home from traveling in Europe is that my aunt had been diagnosed with early onset dementia. A lot of people were making jokes about that in the responses, but it turned out to be the actual explanation. She had never been on a hair trigger like that before she started showing signs.
He wanted to keep it private until they weren't able to keep it private anymore, and he was having a hard time accepting that that time had already arrived.
We cried together for a while and he agreed that he needs to start the process of telling the family about her condition and looking into getting her some extra help.
I talked to my mom about it afterwards and she's really upset.
She was scared that something like this might be the case because the way she showed up to the parade looking like a mess was so out of character, and that's why she wanted me to try to resolve it. She assumed that such a reaction meant I must have done something for it to at least partially be my fault.
A lot of people had assumed she was just a lifelong narcissist who always acted out to get her way, but this is new behavior for her. Ultimately, I'm glad that I tried to make amends if it led to the truth.
I quickly went from resenting my aunt to feeling extremely bad for her. Dementia runs in my family, but it usually takes till the late 80s or early 90s to set in. To deal with a disease that attacks her mind and personality so young is so awful for her, for my uncle, and for their kids. So yeah.
If your older loved ones suddenly start acting nasty in a way that they've never been before, maybe that's not nothing.
Watch out for yourselves and your loved ones, y'all. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Dementia is hard on everyone.
I hope you all can support each other through this. People hugging.
My stomach dropped when I read the words, diagnosed with early onset dementia.
My mom was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at 52 and these past 5 years have been horrible.
Your uncle needs to get the ball rolling with a care facility and if insurance will cover it, as she's already far along. This disease progresses very quickly.
I'm so sorry your family is going through this heartbreak.
I am so sorry. Dementia is hard on everyone.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Dementia is such a horrible disease.
I'm glad you got some perspective on your aunt's behavior.
Good for you for trying to talk it out with her. I don't think people do that enough.
I'm so very sorry.
Dementia is such a challenging diagnosis for everyone.
I would recommend that you encourage your uncle to speak with her doctor about electrolytes.
Every person I've known with dementia has developed an aversion to consuming beverages, and the condition is drastically worsened by not getting enough electrolytes.
It's so common that support groups have many suggestions about how to incorporate more liquids.
A dear friend of mine passed just last year, and up until the last 2 weeks, she was almost herself whenever we successfully got her to drink. The most successful solution was to make her protein shakes with strawberry-flavored protein powder, frozen strawberries, and Pedialyte.
Peace and love to you and your family.
How do I 25F end my relationship with my boyfriend 25M? He treats me 25F exactly like a friend, but only additionally says he loved me.
He thinks he can keep me by not prioritizing me at all, and I'm sick of being walked over. I also don't want to tell him I'm done with the relationship, as whenever I tell him anything slightly serious he gets hysterical and that's exhausting for me, and I end up being blamed. I'd rather it fizzle out into friendship or nothing, but I can't stand hearing him say he loves me when he does nothing to show for it. It hurts my self-esteem for me to allow him to keep treating me this way. He never compliments me, makes time for me, or treats me in any special way at all. I haven't responded to his "I love you" for a few days now, and he hasn't asked why not, or probably even noticed a difference that I'm more distant. It's like he doesn't care. What should I do? We've been together a year. Also, I'm incredibly lonely, and I've finally gotten to the point of rathering learning to cope by myself than deal with this crippling situation anymore. But I'm scared I'll never find someone else again. You just break up with him. Doesn't even really sound like you will care, but expect temporary love bombing, as guys like this often do that in breakup scenarios. Don't fall for it. I'm breaking up with you. This is an announcement, not a negotiation. Goodbye. I promise you'll find someone who loves you in the way you want to be loved. From my experience, the next love is always better than the last. Take time to work on yourself and your goals, and love will come to you when you're ready for a relationship again. First of you are 25, you'll definitely find someone, and someone way better, trust me. I've been divorced twice and married 3, you'll definitely find partners in life. Second of all, it's time to put yourself first and just rip the band-aid off and break up with him, period, before he wastes years of your young life. Please look out for yourself. Your boyfriend is not your boyfriend, he is a roommate at best. If you guys don't live together, just break up with him and block him. Who the fuck wants to be berated for separating? Rip the band-aid off. You're 25 and an adult. You sound very clingy and he sounds indifferent. You deserve more. I was the same way. The more I fawned over him, the more he backed off. We can't make someone treat us better if we don't take care of our needs. Time to walk away and find real love. My M27 wife F27 is thinking of quitting school. I'm now thinking of divorce. What do I do? My wife just told me that she's thinking of quitting school. This is not a problem for me in and of itself, but this would be the 3rd time that she quit, and I don't see a future with her if she doesn't figure out what she wants to do in life. A little background. 4-ish years ago, my wife told me out of the blue that she couldn't handle being at school, bachelor's degree. Back then I tried to be supportive, and together we came up with a plan on how she could get a job, while we figured out her next move. I supported her and I financially for a while, as I had a full-time job with an okay wage. She eventually got a job, as she's great at applications and interviews, and things were good for a while. Things were so good that when she ended up pregnant a few years later, we chose to keep it, and we're both more than happy. We are now parents of a happy and healthy 2-year-old boy. When my wife started her maternity leave, she was planning on going back to school again. We went back and forth about which degree she should go for. She ended up opting for the same one she dropped out of, as she could start from where she left off. I asked her if she was worried about being able to finish the degree this time, but she assured me that this time was different, as she was more mature now with having become a parent and all. Fast forward a year. My wife had went to school for a month, and she often expressed strong anxiety and dread about it. I remember being frustrated at first, as I thought she was over those feelings. We both agreed that she needed help, and she sought counseling and started taking medication for her previously diagnosed anxiety. She then took a 6-month break from school to sort out her medication, which made sense to me. I told her then that I was starting to get worried about our future together, if she didn't figure her school-work situation. Future plans kept getting pushed back, and me taking care of 90% of our bills again was taking a toll on me. She then assured me, like last time, that things were going to work out, as her medication was working wonders. This seemed to be true, as she seemed happier and more motivated than ever. Fast forward to this week. She started expressing those same anxious feelings about school again. My stance is, that she has probably stayed at home for too long, about 2 years of maternity leave and unemployment, which has worsened her anxiety, and she should try going to school for at least a few months to see if she can handle it. Today she tells me that she's been telling me, and everyone else, what she thought we wanted to hear all along, i.e., she's never actually thought she could handle school. I basically told her that I felt betrayed, and she told me she didn't do it consciously, as her anxiety didn't allow her to be honest with herself. I feel like shit and like I am enabling her to not move on with her work life. I want to tell her that she needs to figure her shit out, otherwise I am out. At the same time, we have a kid and 9 pretty great years together.
I am not sure I want to throw all that away. Practically speaking, I'll be fine if we end things, as I have a great network and a fairly wealthy family.
She, on the other hand, would be pretty much on her own, as her family is unreliable.
We have a small savings account, with barely enough to move one person, let alone split the family up in 2 new apartments.
So I am asking, what would you do in my situation?
TLDR. My wife has been at home due to maternity leave and unemployment for 2 years.
She's now thinking of quitting school due to anxiety for the 3rd time in 4 years. I feel used and like I am enabling her staying home.
What do I do? PSA, English is my second language.
Why doesn't she return to a similar job as last time? It's okay to question the arrangement you as a couple have, and it's okay to reevaluate the situation now.
It sounds like you really love your wife but are at your wits' end being you didn't sign up to be the sole provider.
I would consider marriage counseling before divorce. Now's the time to have a frank, open conversation with counseling that you are serious, and things need to change, or you are headed to divorce.
Not telling your wife and suffering in silence is not going to help you or her. There are millions of ways to make a living that do not require a college degree.
I think you need to have an honest, clear and firm, blunt conversation with her about where you're at and how you're feeling.
One where she can't just IDK you or avoid dealing with these kinds of important discussions. Sounds like you've been supportive of her struggles around work, but what does the balance of life look like? Has she explained what it is about school that she struggles with?
Are there supports that can be put in place?
Universities and colleges also have accommodation processes for people struggling. Has she or the both of you tried to access these supports and services?
What is she doing to manage her symptoms?
Have you discussed what her plan is then, if she quits?
Holy cow. She doesn't have to go to school to find a good job. That's what she needs to focus on.
Don't divorce her over this.
School isn't the be-all end-all.
She was only happy when she was a stay-at-home mom, and that isn't the dynamic you married into. You are being nothing but reasonable in this situation. You are right that you are going to have a come-to-Jesus talk with her. She needs to get her shit straight so she is able to support herself because you aren't able or willing to do it all yourself.
She needs to do this to cover her own ass, not for you, and not for the marriage. I, 44 male, don't know how to cope with my wife's, 38 female, crying and emotions. What can I do? We have been married for our 11 years, with 2 young kids, 8 11s, and it has been really tough going. One problem I have is that my wife is very, very emotional. She loses her temper very easily and will start intensely sobbing, crying when she becomes upset. I cannot start to explain how intense her crying can be. It can last for hours. She will cry in front of the children, which upset them as well.
When she's upset, she will say all sorts of things, including how she wishes she was dead and that her life is a mess, etc. A lot of the problems stem around how she treats family. Friends won't put up with this sort of behavior, so she is careful around them and more distant family.
1. She will take offense to something real or imagined, mostly imagined. 2. She will either start shouting, arguing with the person, give silent treatment. 3. She will expect the other person to make the first move at reconciliation. 5. She is happy to cut someone out of her life if they don't attempt to reconcile. I don't know how to deal with this. My friends believe I have enabled this behavior because I try to calm her down and reason with her.
But it's been going on for so many years and there has been no change.
I would normally leave the room to let her cool off, but the kids hear her sobbing and become upset.
What happened today?
I was meant to order takeout for her, but I had forgotten because I need to do something for our daughter. My fault. I hear her sobbing in the bedroom, upset at me.
This was at 6 p.m. and at 8 p.m. she stopped after 2 hours of me talking and apologizing.
In between she threatens to leave me and also threatens to quit she job and screams how she is being punished by God.
So this is mental illness. She needs to be evaluated by a psychiatrist. That's how you deal with it.
She seems extremely unwell. You didn't mention therapy. Is that an option? Is she open to seeing a psychiatrist?
Because this is not
feasible.
She has BPD.
The longer this continues, the more emotional damage to your kids. She needs therapy or she needs to not be around the kids. Honestly, she's not a fit parent and she's damaging your children's chances of ever having a healthy relationship as well. You're their dad, you need to protect them.